Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Almost 30, baby.
Welcome to our world. It's Lindsey and Krista. We're so happy and grateful you're here. Almost 30 is the pod. It's the way of life. It's the community. Um, and this is a place where we hope that you'll laugh a lot and learn a lot. So welcome to another week. I wish we had a count of like how many weeks we've been doing this.
We could probably do the math. So September
52.
2016, but then we practiced recording for 8 months prior. Yeah, a lot of weeks. A lot of
52
weeks.
times 7.
52
We'll have
times a
to do the
whole
math.
million bunch. It's a lot. So if you're new to Almost 30, you don't need to be Almost 30 to listen. It's just when we started the show. We're over 30 now, but we love to bring you some of the things that we're thinking about, we're noodling on, some of the things that we're learning, some of our favorite people, some of the best healers, teachers, leaders in the biz. And today's going to be a fun conversation. I'm really excited to hear this one that you did with Alex.
Yeah, it was really fun. Alex and I have been friends for a couple of years now. But ironically, we were in the same orbit when we were working at SoulCycle at the same time, but I had never met her
Oh,
when I
did
was
she front
working
desk?
there. No, she was in corporate.
Okay,
She
cool.
was like on the recruiting side. And yeah, ironically, even though I was like recruited, never met her. But I think she did more of the corporate recruiting. And around that time that she was at SoulCycle was around the time that she was having her spiritual awakening, was around the time where she kind of realized and started to cultivate her gifts. So it was just really interesting to talk about that too, where that was also, I don't know if I was having my spiritual awakening per se, but I definitely think around that time, especially in LA, I was as well.
I'll
But yeah,
never
this
forget
conversation
my
is going to
Soul
be,
Cycle audition with corporate. So the second time I auditioned, when I made it through to like talking to corporate, the computer was on a table and it was like face down, and I was literally talking to like empty bags of chips. Like there was like people in the room, but there was so many empty bags of chips on the table that my like Zoom camera was literally facing bags of chips. I was like, yeah, I
how did
really
you
want to be a
feel?
Soul Cycle instructor to like a Doritos bag. It was insane. So disrespectful. I swear it was like a power
They're
move.
like,
Like I think it
next.
was like, yeah, I think it was like, we don't care. We're whatever, blah, blah, blah. Look at me now.
Yeah, I think at some point they definitely had a kind of like that lax, like we're family, like kind of like more lax mentality around everything. And then there was kind of the shift when Equinox acquired SoulCycle, where it was like, oh, now we have to be corporate. Like, so it was kind of like a weird thing. People were like, wait, you've changed. And no one really understood why. But yeah, I'm sure that made you feel good.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this is not my favorite
Y-
experience of my life. But that's what happens. Like when you're just interviewing or auditioning and stuff, it's just the level of, yeah, it's just a power. The whole thing's like a power game. And I'm not like a power, I'm not someone who like notices power things all the time, but it's just a whole power dynamic that's going on. And yeah, it's wild. But yeah,
The ability to be yourself in interviews is actually an art because like you're thinking about so many things in the moment of like kind of what they're looking for, what you're looking for. Like it's impossible to chill. I can imagine. I haven't really done many interviews in that sense.
I did a lot when I had first quit my job when I was living in LA, and we were kind of figuring things out and I was trying to find something else. I had so many. I remember I had 10 for one company. And it's like you kind of, it's this, what you do is you take the same brain that you used in school and you take it to interviews. You say, what are the things that they want me to say or know? And how can I regurgitate that information? How can I fit myself into this box or this description for them? And then it's like, you're just trying to really appease them, and it's so hard to be yourself because you want the thing. Like they have the thing that you want, they have the money that they want, they have like the stability that you want. And it's, yeah, it's really challenging. But it is the thing, like when you us now hiring people, or being in the space where we're now the people that do the hiring, it's like you can tell when someone's being themselves and it's so much more comfortable and it's so much better and you trust them more. But it's really hard to be on the other side when you don't know that yet and you only know that they want you to be this way and so you want to be that way. Like, it's just so much better when you're able to be yourself, but it's hard. You know, it's like, it's not an easy thing to be going through multiple job interviews, but it is one of those things. Whenever it works, it does work. Whenever they want you, you know, they want you.
Yeah, it's definitely something where if I went through what you went through with so many rounds in different corporate settings, like I would just be so overwhelmed by what the other person was thinking about me in the moment. I would probably run out of the room.
Oh my God. It was miserable.
But yeah, this conversation around astro manifestation, Alex did a workshop in the membership on this. So I wanted to bring it to the podcast to kind of expand upon. And it was really interesting to kind of break down how different parts of our chart talk to each other and how to understand that and leverage that in your manifestation practices. So we get really deep on that. But I was thinking about my chart when she and I were talking, and there are aspects of my chart, and I'm sure a lot of people have these where like, I'm kind of like, oh, that's like the part that I'm like, I don't really want to talk about, or I don't really want to embrace. But actually every part of your chart, first of all, is a really important piece of the orchestration of who you are and how you can navigate the world in, you know, more flow and in a more grounded way. And so like my Gemini moon, there are aspects of that I feel like, yeah, aren't always palatable for people. And then there's also the aspect of it that I realized really helps me with manifestation, which is that verbal processing with another person, especially around my feelings and my emotions. And anytime that I'm processing internally, I'm processing my emotions more so in my head rather than in my heart. But when I'm processing with another person, for some reason, I'm able to drop down into my heart and just kind of feel through. And then whether it's like the emotion passes or I'm able to gain clarity, then the next step, the next kind of like right action in this manifestation path or whatever I'm trying to call in becomes that much more clear because the heightened emotion is a bit more processed.
Yeah, I love that note because I think a lot of people have a different experience where they're able to be, where it's harder for them to be in their heart with other people. So I think that's unique to you. I think it's a lot of people probably also have that ability, but I think that's very special to you that you can do that. Because for a lot of people, it's like they can be in their body or in their heart, but then as soon as they're speaking it, then it goes back in the mind because they're scared or their nervous system is activated. So it can be challenging. But yeah, I think culturally there's like stigmas against certain signs, you know, so it's kind of like the tropes of each sign, the tropes of a Gemini, the tropes of even like a Pisces even, you know, because I'm a Pisces sun. So people, it can all get in your head where you're like, okay, I know I shouldn't like this, or I know that this sign has these things, but it like is what it is. I think for me, realizing, you know, I'm a Virgo rising, and that aspect of the Virgo rising has made me really successful. I'm so grateful for it, you know, in addition to all the planets I have in Capricorn. But with the Virgo rising means that like my perfectionism and my like obsessive nature with things and my desire for everything to be perfect and the best. And Lindsey knows my quote that I always say is, this could be better. My life is, everything could be better, prevents me from manifesting in a way that can feel really good. Because if I'm always like on to the next, if I'm always wanting more, if I'm always wanting better, then I'm never going to be happy. I'm never going to be grateful. I'm never going to allow myself to be where I am. So really working with the Virgo rising that I have and really seeing that shadow aspect of that Virgo that's really controlling, and really working with that to temper my controlling perfectionist nature to allow more of what my soul wants to come through and be really present with what is. Because it can be really challenging for me because I'm so impatient. I want things to be perfect. I want things to be the best, to really just allow the universe to surprise me, to allow good things to come without me knowing or without me feeling like I have to create it. So I think that's been a part of my chart that I really work with as far as manifestation to just balance more so I can allow more ease and grace and flow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do you feel like your Pisces sun has like benefited your manifestation?
Pisces sun, Sag moon. Pisces sun is really beautiful because it's the dreamer. That's like the dreamer element of me. And that's kind of like the non-human element of me, and like the deeply spiritual aspect of me, and the mystic and the psychic and the intuitive. So that's like probably so much of my manifestation power probably comes through that. And then probably also comes through the Capricorn, being just someone that's really diligent and hardworking, but it comes through in the dream work that I do. It comes through in my ability to be super creative. Like my manifestation power and my creativity is like fully because of my Pisces. So leaning on that more, because that's more of the soul aspect of me. And that's sort of Pisces being my North Node is also like the lessons I came to learn in this life, like being an intuitive, being someone that's like super psychic.
I actually didn't know Pisces was your North Node for some reason.
I know. Isn't that
No,
crazy?
I did, but I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wild.
I know.
That's
so that
really,
means
really
that Virgo is
wild.
my South Node. So my rising, how I present is basically what I need to work with. And then who I actually am at my core is who, I'm sort of came here to be with my North Node. So it's actually really, it's so interesting. I mean, everyone
Ask
when
me
they look
more
at their
about
chart,
me.
they're like, this is so interesting. Oh my gosh. I was this new person that I was talking to. I saw his chart and I was like, whoa, it was like the most beautiful chart I've ever seen. But then I was just getting a little too ahead of myself. And I was like, I was going to like put it in my co-star and all this stuff. I was like, no, we're not going to do
I know. I was
this.
like, what's the next?
What's the next thing? Like, keep it chill. Just because
How
it's like,
compatible? Am I as compatible with this person as I am with Kanye?
oh my God, exactly. You guys, on the pattern app, I did my pattern with Kanye West, and it's literally like we're soulmates. It's crazy. It's like the most epic connection. You guys are like, and me and my friends were just doing crazy people. She was doing Cardi B. We were doing like Donald Trump. We were just doing like psychotic people to see how we were on pattern. But yeah, then it gets in your head because you're like, wow, you have a beautiful chart. We'd be beautiful together. It's like all those things. So it's such a weird world, that astrology, because it can be so helpful, but then it can also kind of prevent you from really meeting the person as they are. But I'm excited about this one. I feel like this conversation has so many juicy nuggets and information. Like when you were telling me what you guys talked about, I was really excited.
Yeah. So not only do we talk about astro manifestation, but we really talk about like astrology as a language. So just like anything else, you kind of have to learn the language of astrology. And I think people can get a bit overwhelmed. So in the beginning, we do break down just some ways in which we can approach it so it doesn't feel like we're such an outsider to this modality in this study. And then we also talk about the different spiritual laws that she's been studying lately and has been applying, especially in her manifestation practices like the law of correspondence and the law of perpetual motion. It was just really interesting. I know you've studied a lot of spiritual laws, but I really hadn't. So it was really nice to just kind of pluck about 4 to 5 of them and really be able to see them in practice and examples in our own lives, and then be able to kind of like trust those moving forward. We talk about death and rebirth cycles, how that is always happening, and just kind of being able to see the beauty in that, and also hold the experience of both at the same time. We talked about how our souls are always recycling. We talked about the North Node and South Nodes are personal, but then also the collective North Node and South Node happening right now. We talked about coaching versus therapy. We kind of just went off on a tangent on that. But then also at the end, we gave a little astro forecast for end of year into 2024. So it was really fun to sit down with Alex here in New York, and you can learn more about her and her work.
Okay, so recently Alex rebranded her website, podcast, and handle to Capricorn Rising Inc. on all platforms. This is really inspiring for me as her friend because she had this intense, clear download to pivot in this way. And this is her commitment to double down in her zone of genius, which is at the intersection of intuition and business. And in her coaching practice, she works with leaders and brands on leaning into their intuitive nature and coaches intuitives on standing up their businesses. On her podcast, Capricorn Rising, she interviews intuitive leaders about their leadership approach through the lens of astrology, human design, and manifestation. So you can find more at CapricornRisingInc.com. Her IG and TikTok handle is Capricorn Rising Inc. And the podcast is Capricorn Rising Inc., the podcast.
We love a girl chat. We love a girl time. Thank you guys for listening to Almost 30. Thank you for subscribing, for rating and reviewing. We're so excited that you love Morning Microdose, which is our daily dose of Almost 30 without any ads, without any intro, just bringing you 5 to 10 minutes of juice every single day from some of the best episodes we've ever had. We have Almost 30 podcast on TikTok, which is popping off. There's really great quotes and it's just really fun over there. And then we have Almost 30 podcast on Instagram. We have our membership courses and programs at almost30.com. We have support for podcasters with Podcast Pro. We have all the things, we have all the creations, and we're just excited that you're part of our world.
All right. Enjoy this one. Share it with a friend if you love it. And we will see you on the other side.
We'll see you soon.
Our partner, AG1, I adore you so, so much. I have been in a new routine as a mom, and it's been really important to anchor in with some pieces of my quote old routine that just are tried and true and always keep me feeling good. And my top is AG1. I take AG1 in a tall glass of cold water every single day, usually first thing in the morning. And this has helped to fill any nutritional gaps. This is a foundational nutrition supplement that supports your whole body health. It has 75 vitamins and minerals and whole food sourced ingredients. The quality of AG1, this super, super incredible powder, is the highest of any I've ever seen. And we know this company intimately. We've been working with them for years, and I know how obsessed they are with the quality of what they put in this powder. So AG1 replaces your multivitamin, probiotic, and more in one simple drinkable habit. The science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food sourced nutrients is unlike any other powder. They are just raising the standard for quality in this department. And so if you're someone that's like, I don't know what to take, I'm overwhelmed, how many pills do I have to take? This is for you. This is going to upgrade your life, upgrade your nutrition. Again, 75 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients. Try it out, and it tastes really good. If you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D, which is so important to be taking. Most of us are deficient in vitamin D, especially this time of year, heading into fall, winter on in the Western Hemisphere. And 5 free AG1 travel packs you're going to get with your first purchase. So go to drinkag1.com/almost30. That's drinkag1.com/almost30. Check it out. Last night before bed, I was wearing my red light face mask from Bond Charge, and Sean walked in. He's like, whoa. I was like, please do not be afraid, because this is my favorite part of my nighttime routine. This red light face mask is one of my favorite things. It's so easy to use and store and just integrate every single day. Red light therapy has been reviewed in over 4,000 peer-reviewed studies, with 400 plus being double-blind placebo trials. So the health benefits that have been found are just unbelievable, and not one of them has shown any negative side effects to red light therapy. So to be able to do red light therapy on your face 10 to 20 minutes each day, it's awesome. Okay. They have near infrared and red light. It helps boost collagen and elastin production. This is great for wrinkles and fine lines, for a sore jaw, which I've been experiencing post-pregnancy, eczema, migraines, acne, scar tissue, wound healing, relaxation, razor burns, ingrown facial hair. So I use this for about 15 minutes each night, and I have just noticed such a difference, not only in the fine lines around my eyes and on my forehead, But also, like I said, in my jaw, I've been experiencing a bit of jaw soreness after pregnancy. There's a lot of tension. Also, I'm like, my posture lately hasn't been great. So I think it's translating to a tight jaw as well. And this has been so freaking helpful. So helpful. And we actually did an episode on red light therapy with Andy Mant, the founder, a couple years ago. So you can check that out on Almost 30. But listen, they ship worldwide. They are easy to return and exchange if you need to. 12-month warranty on all their red light therapy devices. And they have other amazing products. So if the face mask is something that you want, love, but want more, and or you want something else, they also have low blue light bulbs. They have blue light glasses. They have EMF protection products. They have an infrared sauna blanket that I'm obsessed with. They have blackout sleep masks that are incredible. All of this is backed by science. I'm obsessed with BondCharge. So go to bondcharge.com/almost30 and use coupon code almost30 to save 15%. That's BONCHARGE.com/almost30 and use coupon code almost30 to save 15%.
I kind of want to start with a prayer of intention, just because I feel like a lot of energy is about to freaking blast us off. Okay. I would love for this to be collaborative, so I'll pause and you chime in.
Great.
But thank you. I'm so grateful to be here with Alex. I feel like this is a long time coming. And I just want to invite all of our team, both of our teams, our angels, our guides, our ancestors, our ascended masters, our galactic teams. Let's make it a party. Just allow us to connect on a level that is impactful, both in the 3D, 4D, and 5D. Mm-hmm. And may the truth and humor and love that comes through this conversation be felt by all who listen. May Alex just sit and speak and channel in her best light and feel comfortable, and just allow me to remain in my body and present. And I'll hand it over to Alex.
Thank you. That's perfect. Yes, and just let the information that step forward today be for everyone's truest and best, highest path for both Lindsey and I and the Almost 30 community who is listening, who will be listening in perpetuity to this episode. May it hit and resonate with those who really need to hear these messages and feel this energy. And so mote it be.
Mm-hmm. And so it is. Woohoo! Okay, blast off, baby.
I love starting things like that.
I know. Because sometimes I need to ground. If I'm like
totally.
If I'm in like an Uber on the way over or like on the train or something, I'm like, whoa, I just picked up a bunch of stuff.
Oh, true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I was talking to my husband this morning because he's
Love him.
out working. Yeah. And he's a coach and I'm a coach, right? And so I'm like, I'm a little bit nervous. And he's like, it's your body getting ready to perform. And I was like, yes. He's told me this before, probably numerous times. But when it he drops in and he tells me at that moment, I'm like, yes, you're so right. He's like, it would be strange if you didn't. And you can't fight that feeling. So just go with it. Let it come in, pass. Let it dissipate. He's like, it's truly, you're human.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah.
I love that shit. Like we had an event a few weeks ago and Krista and I were so nervous. And we were like, I think this is how we're supposed to feel, but it still felt like, whoa, like, why are we so nervous?
Yeah.
But I love that shift of just like your body's getting ready to perform. Everything's kind of coming together.
Yep.
For you to be in your body and on and present. And that makes total sense. And sometimes our mind, I think, calls it nervousness.
Right.
But I think it's something else.
Which it's the same frequency as anticipation. Like nervousness and anxiety and anticipation, they're kind of all like cousins. It's like all those different frequencies that kind of feel similar, but you're like, but I'm excited also.
Yes.
So it's like I'm nervous, but I'm excited. It's not. And plus, when you're in like new situations, completely new, it's like taking a test in a different room.
Yeah. Yeah. You're used to
This
like,
is not a test, by the way. And I like don't think of it that way.
you're used to like the certain
not an
pencil,
exam.
the teacher being in that position. I remember that feeling of like,
Oh, totally.
oh my God, I'm so disoriented. Like I cannot take this test.
Yeah. But then you look at the page and you realize you know the story, and you realize it's all the knowledge is within you.
Okay, great way to get.
And then the Moana theme music steps in, and dude, the amount of times I use Moana as like a teaching tool.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I know. Everyone in the audience is like, oh, okay.
Oh, well, you're about to see it like
100
million times.
Okay.
So don't worry, it will come for you. I have, nieces and nephews now, and it's on literally all the time. If it's not on TV, it's on, the soundtrack's on, and it's really a beautiful story. It makes me cry every single time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's my favorite Disney movie.
Maybe I should watch it in these like last few weeks.
You will like weep most likely, but it's very, very empowering.
Okay.
She's a Voyager. She always has been. That's all you need to know.
Noted. Okay. I was on the way over here and I'm like, it's kind of crazy that we technically didn't meet, but came into each other's orbits well before the podcast. So I kind of wanted to start there because a lot of people in our audience are maybe in a place career-wise or in a place in their life where they're feeling like, I feel like I'm not quite in the place where I'm feeling my groove and feeling myself and feeling on purpose.
Yeah.
And I'd love to talk about your experience at SoulCycle and in any other job that you kind of found yourself in at that time, and just how you looking back now, it really all makes sense.
Yeah. It's such a good question. And SoulCycle was one of those places that I just knew I had to work there. And it was kind of like one of those things I knew probably in the years before I did, when it really changed my life. And I thought, like, to be an ambassador for a company like this, it's just so easy and natural. And I always kind of felt, and now looking back, that everything's really a stepping stone. So it's like, I knew that was like, that's what I knew at the time. I was like, okay, if I do what I know how to do, which is recruiting, and I do it for a company that I love, it's like not work. And it truly didn't feel like work. It felt like so easy, and very pinch me moments, like even in the interview process, like talk about nerves. Dude.
Tell me more.
I had to take SoulCycle classes before I did the interviews to like shake out all the nerves.
Totally.
And then it was like a superstition. And I had like 5 interviews. So it's like, they better hire me because
you're snatched.
Literally, I'm not only am I snatched, but I'm single-handedly like funding the company at this point. That's my perspective, obviously. Excuse me. So then I get the job, and I really remember being like, is this real? Like, I remember being like, what the hell? This is like so magical. That's when I knew manifestation was real. Like, even before I knew what it was. And yet every company is a company. People are people. Shit is not perfect. And so you realize, okay, this is okay. There's flaws here. And I think that's when I actually settled into like, okay, I can do something for this company. Like, I feel like I can value add. There's stuff that's not perfect. Yeah. And that's when I think everybody kind of settles into themselves a little bit. Like, even in your partnership, right? You're like, oh, you have a flaw? Cool. Like, great. We can work with that. This isn't like some pie in the sky thing that I'm really afraid to lose.
And like put on a pedestal. It's kind of brought down.
Yes. It got brought down to earth for me. So then it was still amazing. It just felt like, oh, people recognize my skill set coming from a different place. And that was really meaningful and impactful at that point in the company, because most people came from the studios.
Okay.
You know? And like,
you were in corporate.
And I worked in corporate recruitment before that. So they hired me and they were kind of like, okay, she's a writer. She's got this experience, because a lot of people came up from the studios and they actually preferred that, which was cool, actually. It's a really amazing thing to see people being groomed from working the front desk.
Yeah.
But at that stage in the company, they needed like more structure. And so it was cool. It was kind of like, oh, there's like something I can add here. Like, it's not just me being so grateful for this opportunity and feeling like I have to prove myself and like running in that circle and pattern.
Did you feel like, were you aware of your gifts at that time, or was it, I'm just curious.
I became aware when actually my desk mate, Harriet, I was going through a breakup and she was like, you need to talk to my psychic. And I was like, okay. She's like, you talk on the phone. He predicted all these things for me and my mom. And we talked on the phone and he was basically like, yes, you're broken up with this person. He was like, I had already broken up with them.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell him that. I was like, I'm not sure. And he was like, his energy's nowhere near you. So are you sure
Like, what do you mean?
you're still living together? And I was like, well, we are, but we already broke up. So he kind of like called me out on my bullshit.
Yeah.
But in that conversation, he was like, you're extremely psychic. And he kind of, now I know, he was telling me how it turns on for him, which it's different for everybody. So he was like, those like gut feelings and this and that. And then I realized I was mapping it to what I did every day, which was interview people. The tables have turned.
Tables have turned, baby.
And I realized that I would come away from a lot of those conversations with like extra knowledge, where I was like, oh, they want to do this job to like prove it to their dad that they're like matter. And we would interview in groups, and Sarah, my manager, would be like, what? They did not say that. I'm like, they didn't, like I took it as like, okay, this is like extra information that like can be helpful for us to place them in the right position, or,
Sure.
It's helpful.
Almost like anticipate, like if things, if there are certain personality traits or patterns or behaviors, not that it's any of, it's like such a fine line when you're in corporate.
It was not, yes.
You're like, so talk to me about your dad.
Yeah. And like, totally. And it like at that time too, because I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
I wasn't using it.
Sure. Of
to,
course.
like I had no idea what I was doing essentially. Then I started to realize like, oh, I know things and I can like hear things. And like, that's when I started to place that together.
Yes.
And then I got my first tarot deck at SoulCycle, like somebody was clearing out their office and they had stuff and they were like, take whatever. And there was a tarot deck in there. That was my first one. And I just went home and I just remember just throwing myself into tarot and astrology, like full-fledged, because I had permission from him. He was like, you are psychic. And I think truly so many people need that validation.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's like it takes those moments sometimes. And it's so funny. It's like a light switch.
Yes.
Because we're all intuitive, right? We all have. Do you believe that everyone is psychic?
I believe everybody's intuitive.
Yes.
And we all get extrasensory information. And then I think that psychic, it's like a matter of semantics, basically.
Sure.
But I would say intuitive. Yes.
Yes.
We're literally spirit in a human body.
I think the permission gives you at least temporary confidence to lean into it and actually practice or become more aware on a regular basis. And then, it's either like you continue to trust and follow that regardless of whether more people validate you or not.
Yeah.
Or you become frustrated and just kind of leave it and you're not sure. And then you start to notice, like, what are people going to think? Will I fit in? Like, can I talk to people about this? So it's such a delicate kind of path when you're beginning.
Yeah.
Did you feel like your confidence stuck around when it came to that?
I've always kind of been a person to just like be so open about whatever's going on with me, like for better or for worse. So, and plus SoulCycle was such a safe environment to
really
be
was.
like really yourself. Yeah. You really, everyone validated you
Mm-hmm.
to a degree that was like not normal, I realized after I left. And actually I knew it before too, but the way that we told people like, I love you, I'm so grateful for you, truly after like a meeting,
Mm-hmm.
we would be like, we would hug, you know, to see each other after a long time. It felt like this special family. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And dysfunctional as families can be too, but we just really did that for each other. So I feel like that was on purpose, you know, like to be in an environment where I could come back to work after I talked to the psychic with my desk mate and be like, oh my God, you told me I'm psychic. She was like, what? You know, like it was just like, we were just all like giggly about this stuff.
Totally.
And it felt like, and maybe that helped to solidify like what my intuition, my intuitive abilities landed like, which are like that, which is like fun and light. And of course there's heavy stuff that comes through, but like just this perspective is like, we're not really here for a long time. We're here for a good time.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. Talk to me about how your messages come through for you. And then can you speak to kind of the different ways in which people might be receiving messages, just so they know that they also are intuitive.
Everybody's intuitive. So I think a really good place to start is like what we're doing right now, which is clairaudience and clairloquience, which is like the use of words and powerful words to either convey a psychic information or receive psychic information. And clairaudience, which would be like clear hearing. And so like I could hear a message in the way that somebody's talking and be able to interpret that, right? So that's, if you're listening to podcasts or if you learn information through audiobooks and things like that, I think that that's a really easy foray into intuitive information coming through that way. I know you're similar where we listen to audiobooks and you might get a download when you're like listening on your morning walk to Rick Rubin, as I do, which is the best. I just finished that book. It's so amazing.
The best. I'll read it for the rest of my life.
It's so meditative too. Like, do you have the audiobook yet? I can't remember.
I'm literally going through the book so slowly because I don't want to finish it.
It's amazing. I want to get the coffee table book now, but okay, back to the intuitive.
We're talking about Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, just FYI.
Which is so amazing. So I receive information a lot like that.
Okay.
Truly it's been developing over time. So I would say at first it was also clear cognizance, like just an intuitive knowing. That one is really hard to pinpoint and map because it's just a download. And so it could come through an audiobook or something like that. It could come through a message that you receive, but it could just pop in your head out of nowhere when you're gardening or something. And it has nothing to do with what you're doing.
And what does it feel like? Just so people...
It's kind of like a ping.
Kind of like when I get that, it's like a feeling of peace. You know, it's like it's like clarity and peace at the same time.
Yes.
Like, whew.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
It's not an anxious thought.
No.
It's not like charged. It's just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And like there's a lot of studies that have been done that we really need to get into those meditative states where our mind is elsewhere. Like if we're driving or washing the dishes or gardening or doing something extraneous that's taking up our motor skills, it allows our brain to wander. And it's inconvenient sometimes because like I was driving listening to Spirit Babies, getting all these downloads, and there was nowhere for me to put it because I was driving.
Totally.
It's like, this is unsafe. Like I should have like a notebook or something with me at all times. I didn't know that stuff was gonna come through.
Have a stenographer sitting next to you in the passenger seat.
I know. I was like, how do I get this down? So that's the other thing too that I just recommend for however things are coming through to you, like document it.
Yeah.
Because it's up to you. Like if it comes in and it's super clear, it can also, it's not going to land unless you do something to ground it in. It could be like grounding it into your body, feeling into your body when it's happening, writing it down, like all of those kind of grounding activities.
Sure. Yeah, I love the writing down piece. It's like, and documenting it, even if you feel like the mind is doubting it.
Yeah.
Just so you can start to track
Yeah.
what's coming through. You know what I mean? I think sometimes the mind will get in the way and be like, no, we were just like thinking, it's, we'll say so much about it.
Yeah. It's like writing down a dream where it's like, does this make sense?
Yeah,
But it's just you and you,
exactly.
So
clairaudience, clairloquience.
Yeah. So there are actually, and my teacher Chemo has really opened my eyes to this. There are like so many different ways that clear knowing can come forward.
Yeah.
So it's not just the 4 clairs that we hear a lot about. So I just introduced a new one, clairloquience.
I know, I love that.
Which is great. But I would say like sticking with the 4 can be helpful as you get acclimated, because there's like clear taste and clear smell and clear all sorts of different things that like I know I have and truthfully haven't like fully developed into, because I'm like, what is clear taste? Like, am I going to taste blood when someone's dying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really get it yet.
Yeah.
And there's different ways that like what we were talking about before, that like getting this type of information, to be a catalyst for you to receive it in whatever way works for you, because it will be different. Everyone's intuition feels, looks, and sounds very different. And so these are just like starting points, basically. But the other important ones to talk about in the clairs are clairvoyancy, which is clear seeing. And so most people, and Chemo's taught me a lot about this, most people think that's seeing spirit, which it can be, but can also be seeing clear, like a vision for yourself, in your mind's eye, seeing you on a stage somewhere.
Yes.
You experiencing something and you're like, huh, that's cool. Love that. Or it can be like that active visualization of your desires and things like that, which things can come from that as well. So that like clear foresight, let's say.
Yes.
Which
I know I've been thinking about the clairvoyance because I never really connected to that until I started to, like, when I have visions for what I want to create, and that doesn't necessarily have to be for my job or career. Like, for example, I saw the vision of the baby's room.
Yeah.
And I saw it in my mind, and then I went on Canva.
Ooh.
And I like kind of
Yeah.
very non-professionally like kind of plotted it out. Just like pulled in different elements or whatever.
Yes.
And I literally am walking into the room now, and it is exactly what I envisioned, which sounds like, no, you just like had the vision, you bought the things, and then you put it together. But it feels different.
Yeah. It's like, where did that come from?
Where did that come from? And then for it to actually manifest so precisely and feel like I knew it was going to feel is like blowing my mind. I'm like, what else can I do?
What else can I manifest?
Yeah.
That is such a really wonderful way to explain that, because it's also like you could have chosen anything.
Yes.
And that would overwhelm people too, especially when you're in that phase where you're preparing and getting ready. And I think that tapping in these intuitive ways is through calm, focused, like intention.
Yes.
And so people often have, and I know we're missing one, Claire, we'll circle back to it, but like people often ask, like, how can I determine the difference between an anxious thought and an intuitive thought? And like anxious is looping. It's very like overwhelm, feeling like if you're like, we got to do the baby's room. And then you're like, okay, I kind of like green. And then you look at the greens and you're like, there's so many greens. And then that overwhelms you. And you're like, but intuitively I knew it was supposed to be green. Well, yeah, but like let it settle. Let yourself settle. I teach people how to like read tarot and astrology and things like that. And I'm like, if you feel anxious at all for the answer, it's not the right time to do it.
Yeah.
Like really check in.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Because especially when it's information that's so important to you, you want it to be a certain answer. You
Mhm.
with a baby's room is a little different. Like there's a little bit more.
Sure.
Of course, you want it to be perfect, but you know that the environment matters little. Other than being
Exactly.
comfortable. But like if you're like, am I supposed to be in this partnership? And you're like asking that big ass question that's really complicated and there is no black and white. Whew,
Yeah, making
like,
sure that you're not in that like super anxious state, needing the answer, desperate for the answer.
yes.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. I've definitely been there.
Same.
And then when some answer comes in, it's not from that place.
Yeah.
It's more from a place of fear.
Right. Yes.
And then it just is, yeah.
And like now I love to just really connect in with my guides. Whereas before, when I first got that tarot deck, I didn't really know what I was doing. So everything was coming from, I would say at times higher self and at times probably anxiety and fear. Definitely anxiety and fear. But it was always easier to read for other people because I was not invested
Yes.
as much. But I typically don't love reading for friends. Astrology is different.
Yeah.
But for friends, especially, like I learned that early on, sometimes they don't want you to know and they're not looking at you as a channel, or, you don't want to give them that information because it's coming through you. But really it's universal information.
Right.
But we're human. Like it's very hard to turn off the relationship that you have with your friend.
Sure. I know. If I think about like friends that I know could read me, including you.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Let
And
you read me. But I know that feeling. It's like with certain people, I'm like, you know too much. And it's not that I don't believe them. It's more so I'm just like, yeah, I just kind of want more of a neutral,
totally
unattached.
definitely.
Okay, let's do the fourth Claire. And then, because you're so good at like making sure we do loop back. And
So
then
that's
we'll move.
clairsentience. You're a clairsentient being. We all are, but that's like that clear feeling. So I think a lot of people can resonate with the gut feeling, right? Like, I just know this isn't right for me, or I just know that this is right for me. I just know, sometimes I think the body does so much more. I actually definitely know that the body does so much more for us than we are even aware of. Even like, no, I need to eat right now, or I don't need to eat right now. And that keeps us alive. It's a clear feeling, right? Like, and it's an intuitive piece of information that happens truly at least 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Right? I'm thirsty. I think we're really trained out of especially body, especially as if you're in a female body, or, just have grown up with a lot of rules or structure or authority. Like in the creative act, Rick Rubin talks about how school is meant to like make us obedient. It's not meant for us to be creative or figure out our intuitive self.
Completely.
It's for us to get in line.
Get in line, follow rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of be placed into somewhat of a system. Yeah.
And you have to ask for permission when you need to eat, go to the bathroom. Like, why are we surprised that we have to do like these things now, myself included, like intuitive eating, to like retrain our body?
I remember the feeling too of like getting my period.
Yeah.
And like that kind of being a point of disconnection from my body, where it should have been such a connection point with my body. But it was, I think, it's just in the zeitgeist of like, ooh, like, oh man, you started your period. Okay. Like womanhood, but like, ooh, get ready. This happens for X amount of years. And, you just got to deal with it every month. The cramps and the pain and the blood and the whatever. And then you go to school and there's not like there's not a consideration for that experience. You got to hide it. You got to take care of it. You got to stuff the jumbo size tampons in your backpack. You got to
totally
figure out how to navigate feeling kind of crappy for however long. You
Yeah.
feel crappy in your cycle at school. You don't feel comfortable telling people. And it's just this like rejection of what the body so naturally knows how to do.
Yeah.
And from the cycle, which is such an intuitive
Right.
system in the body.
It's crazy you say that because I went to an all-girls high school and I'm like, did we have tampons in the bathroom? Like, did we definitely talked openly
Yeah.
about it, which I
Yeah.
think was cool. But like we all had to bring our own. Like it felt like that should have been provided to us.
Totally. And also
Like-
it shouldn't, I feel like even like the higher ups can like,
Yeah.
I went to an all girls high school too.
Did we ever talk about that?
I don't know.
Don't you feel like it was helpful though?
Yes. Yes. It was so hard at times. Like it was
Yes.
like brought me to my knees, and
Yes.
I wouldn't have done it any other way. Like I'm
Yes.
so grateful. But I think there's such an opportunity in an all girls high school in particular in this sense, where why didn't we have maybe a workshop on connecting with your body or like optimizing your cycle so that you feel really good? I mean, no one knew about this back then, but you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes.
Even now,
totally.
are we having those workshops that girls can,
I hope so.
I don't
Get us in there.
I know.
If anyone's listening that's an administrator,
Dude,
we'll come
it's so
in.
hard to get into schools.
I actually, one of my
So many hoops.
favorite clients, hopefully she's listening to this, I know she will, is a former educator
Okay.
that created her own company that goes into schools and gives them the curriculum
Wow.
to teach kids to read.
Oh, I'm obsessed with that.
Dope.
I'm
She's
obsessed
amazing.
with that.
Yeah, she's amazing. She found me and I was like, you're an angel.
Wow.
That's,
Wow.
I know. It was like so cool.
And there's so many of those things where it's like
Yeah.
learn how to,
Mhm.
but it's so outdated in schools or they don't
Totally.
even have it.
Right.
and-
To have a more intuitive sense of like, learn how to trust yourself, learn how to go with your creative impulses. Like we had art class, right? But it was like a class. You had to go to that class. Imagine like the period every day changes, for lack of a better word, but you have art that like float. We had it like floating. So it was like always a different time.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
sometimes I'm not creative at 7:15,
Totally.
Mrs. Messina.
Or after my 10-minute break where I had 3 chocolate chip cookies. Like
Yeah,
I
like,
want
I
to
don't-
pass out.
Like I want to play with clay maybe, but like it's probably not going to be good.
I know. It's so true. I mean, don't get us started on the school system
Dude.
or education system. It's
Well,
really
I think it's also important to like just know that like we came from a certain thing and a certain structure, and it's okay for us not to have it all figured out and not to have a total handle on our intuition.
Sure.
Because it was truly conditioned out of us.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I think people really beat themselves up, and there's also so many opportunities, especially with social media, to like compare ourselves and be like, well, Alex is way more intuitive than me. And like, how can I ever do that? Like, she was born this way and I don't feel like I am. I did that for so long where I just, I didn't believe in my own intuition and just the downloads that I was receiving because I thought other people just had more of a gift. So yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I know. And I think it's important to just note that it is different for everybody. And so you might even intuitively know, okay, I have this piece of information. I really need to talk it out. And I know if I talk to this person, I'll feel this way. That's an intuitive friend. They might help you parse something out. They might help you get clearer about something. They might rally around you and get you fired up if that's what you need. You know, like you're a Gemini moon. I'm a Gemini sun. Like we need to verbally process things.
Yes.
And I think comparison, if we just flip it and think, oh, everybody's different. And so like, what if we really utilized each other and like leaned on each other and supported each other in our differences and just knew like maybe the right time to talk to one person isn't now because you're feeling sensitive or
Sure.
like we are not going to be everything to everyone. And that is, I'm saying that out loud as much for myself as I am for anything else. Like it's impossible.
Impossible. Yeah.
And you can't trust an intuitive more than you trust yourself.
That's what I've learned so much over the years, especially being in this space where like I feel like Krista and I at some point we were seeing psychics, mediums, intuitives, all the things
Yeah.
like so often. And
It's
then
addictive.
we were like, and it was half us seeking and then half just them finding us too, and just these experiences through the podcast. And I think now more than ever, like I haven't quote had like a reading or anything in quite some time, and I think it was like very much a call from my soul that was like, okay, we just need to like remind you that like you always know, and it's so nice to have someone to process with, to kind of see things that you might not be seeing.
Yeah.
But I really needed that time to kind of be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I have this.
There's a time for seeking and there's a time for speaking or for
Yeah.
letting it land.
Yes.
It's truly like the cycles of everything, you know, reaping and sowing and birth and death. Like we seek out a lot. We get what we need. We should know when that is, right? Like when we're at overwhelm, maybe
Right.
overwhelm of information. And then, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I definitely went through it
Yeah.
myself too, where you naturally cycle out of like teachers and relationships and things like that. It just makes total sense that that's that natural cycle too.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like we'll hit on cycles again because I feel like there's a lot there of
Yeah.
like a lot of fear around whether the completion of a cycle or different parts of certain cycles.
Now more than ever, I need a snack that is so convenient, so yummy, is protein packed, is satiating, and is yummy. Did I say yummy? And I found it. Chomps. Y'all, Chomps makes snacking super simple. Their tasty meat sticks are packed with the most delicious flavors and only the best real ingredients. I am a stickler about ingredients. I am turning over to the nutrition label and the ingredient list on everything I eat, and Chomps is approved. Each delicious Chomps meat stick has the protein your body needs, over 9 grams per stick, and it doesn't have any unhealthy additives and 0 sugar. They're low carb, keto friendly, allergy friendly, and they don't contain any fillers. They are simply made with natural ingredients you can feel super, super good about. And they're only sourced from farmers who raise animals humanely and farm responsibly. So we're looking out for the environment and our animal friends. They come in 9 flavors that I'm obsessed with. I'll tell you about it in a moment. And you can get a variety pack or you can get your favorite flavor once you know it. And you are going to be so happy. I literally put these in my purse, my backpack. I literally put them around the house in my bedroom. They've been known to be in my bedroom because when you're breastfeeding, you need snacks everywhere. My favorites are the original beef, the original turkey, which is a great little different meat moment. And I also love the sea salt beef, the pepperoni seasoned turkey. But they have a bunch on here like habanero beef and jalapeno beef. You are going to find one or more that you absolutely love. For our listeners right now, Chomps is offering our listeners 20% off their first order and free shipping when you go to chomps.com/almost30, baby. Go to chomps.com/almost30 for 20% off your first order and free shipping. That's chomps.com/almost30. Don't forget to use our link so they know we sent you. Chomps.com/almost30. The other morning, I got a few minutes to myself. I put down Mav for a nap, and I opened up my Open app and did a quick breathwork session. And I realized that I've been using the Open app for almost 2 years now, I think it is. And I just had a moment where I was like, thank God for this app, because I have integrated it into my weekly routine and I can do it anywhere I am. And the last 2 years have been so new and exciting and also challenging at times. And this has been one of the things that has been constant in my life. And honestly, I feel like a secret sauce to success, to groundedness, to centeredness. And if you're like me, you've tried like a ton of apps and a ton of different ways to incorporate, whether it's meditation or breath work or movement, but like not all of them stick. And so when I found Open, I was like, oh my God, I need to tell everyone about this. The app is not only beautiful aesthetically, it just provides this incredible, safe, resourceful space for you to feel good mentally, emotionally, physically. They have breath, they have meditation, they have movement. The Open method, it's simple and it works. It combines breathwork, meditation, and fitness, and they have a super awesome community of people doing it all together, all committed to personal growth. You really feel that community aspect. And I shot it from the rooftops. I'm like, yo, if you are looking for a place to really anchor in these types of practices, Open is the place to do it. So I usually do breath work in the morning, like very, very brief, like 10 to 20 minutes. It honestly has like replaced my morning coffee. It makes me feel so focused, so in my body. And then if I have time, I will pop on one of their fitness classes. So I love doing their strength classes. I also love the stretch and mobility classes. So I highly recommend. And then my meditation before bed, of course, which just makes me sleep so, so well. My only regret is not starting this way sooner, like years and years and years ago. But hey, 2 years feels pretty good. This app will change your life. And if you want to get on this type of daily routine or weekly routine, you can get 30 days free of Open by visiting withopen.com/almost30. Again, 30 days free by visiting withopen.com/almost30. And don't forget to follow me and Almost 30 and your friends on the app. I am Lindsey Simsek. And if you're in LA, make sure you check out their new studio to practice with Open in person, IRL. Enjoy.
But I wanted to talk about, you mentioned manifestation as it relates to you getting the job at SoulCycle. And so as we kind of fast forward to you really becoming immersed in this work, astrology, in fine-tuning your psychic ability, etc., how did manifestation kind of play a part in that?
Yeah. I feel like learning about manifestation first time, beginner's luck. I think it's true for everybody. When they first find out about it, they're like, whoa, this shit is real? That's amazing. Can I manifest like a partner then? Then it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
Because then you want it real bad and you can't really just trust that it's coming. You're looking around every corner. So that was like the first manifestation lesson for me that was like really, really hard, which was manifesting my partner. Because I kept being like, is that him? Is that him? Is that him?
I mean,
I feel like that's him. And I had the list, you know, I had the whole thing. And someone was coaching me through manifestation. So once I finally felt good in my self-esteem, my confidence, I felt like I had a lot going on. I had just gotten a new job. That was right when I left SoulCycle, which is a really big deal for me. And it was like, I think we should mourn our last jobs, by the way. We just move on so quickly from things. And I'm like, that was honestly really painful and sad. When I look back on it, that was a huge relationship for me, essentially. Family. It's like leaving a whole family.
Sure.
And nothing's ever the same again. Anyway, talk about cycles. I just started my period.
I mean, perfect.
So that, exactly. I started watching, I love Tyler Henry, but my partner was like, let's watch, like From Far Away, Tyler Henry together. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, I got bored. I stopped. And I was like, I'm sobbing. So thank you so much for like truly putting me in that state before bed. Thanks. He's so amazing, by the way. But that was my first. So once I got that new job, I found myself in a position of like, I'm so good. Like, I don't need a partner right now. This is not the right time for me to really have that, because I always had the perception that relationships were a lot of work.
Yeah.
Because they always were. And then I met Leszek. And I met him as I was transitioning out of that job, and I was starting this new job, and I put him off. I was like, I'll see you in like 3 weeks, maybe. I need to get myself situated. And he was really patient. And then when we went on our first date, I was like, holy shit, this is him. Oh my God. I wasn't even looking at it like that.
Wow.
I truly had like let it go so much that I forgot I wasn't seeking. I wasn't looking around every corner. It had landed. So then I was like, oh, this is that full cycle of manifestation. So then cut to now, I have much more evidence about how manifestation works and just the more inner workings of like the spiritual laws and kind of more of the why, which I think is really helpful for me and probably many who are listening to understand that it's not just the law of attraction, which is big part of it, but that everything operates at a vibration, including like things we were talking about, like anxiety and stress and fear and things like that. And the thought and how often you're in that vibration is the law of correspondence, which is like your beliefs, your patterns, your undercurrent. That's where astrology can be really helpful, where you're like, okay, this is how I'm wired. These are my normal patterns. And then you observe them in reality and you can understand, oh, I might be someone who will be super anxious when I am about to do something that I really want to do. How do I work with that? How do I let that land? You know, how do I recognize that as just a part of my pattern versus something that is an intuitive thing that it means I shouldn't do it.
Sure. Yep.
So just kind of like understanding a little bit more about how spiritual law operates, like how laws are like not a great word. I wish we had a different word for them, but you know what I mean?
But I would say, or like I want to know, are they laws because they are always true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We have laws that are like human laws.
Yeah. It's
that are
different.
not always
So yeah,
right.
that's the
So I think that's why it's like a
yeah.
word that is a bit outdated,
Mhm.
but that's the word. They're spiritual law because they're always true.
So when we talk about the aspects of our charts as almost like specific coding, right?
Yeah.
Like, and those things, would you say are quote unchangeable? And I know that sounds like, like if there's a bad part of it or someone labels it as a bad part, then we can't change it. But I think what I'm hearing you say is like, we can work with anything. It's more, the important part is the awareness of, rather than it working behind the scenes or being the undercurrent that you have no idea is actually directing everything.
I want to answer that two ways, which is like, yes, it is your patterning. And also, we are influenced by the planets at all times. And so whether or not that pattern is going to be highlighted at that time, whether or not you're going to have an opportunity to see it in action will remain to be seen.
Yeah.
So I think it makes it a little bit simpler to decode it when you're like, oh, okay, Mars is on my south node right now. So this is why I want to talk about conditioning, because I'm being catalyzed to think about it, to reflect on it, and to experience it in my life. I'm seeing those patterns and I'm seeing the conditioning. And then I think for people to understand, like, here's what I could be settling into and loving about myself. And here are some things that maybe I could be working on, moving towards, like giving people goals. Depends on the person, but I think a lot of people really like, what should I be focusing on, or what should my goal be? So yeah, there are so many aspects in the chart to really settle into that. And like, it's a love language. Like, you are you. That's your chart is your chart. We have progress charts and things like that show us how we change over time. But by and large, this is you, babe.
Yeah, it's really that invitation. Like when I first forayed into astrology, I was like, okay, like I had a grandmother who was like very much into it on like a, I don't even know what level.
She
We all
was an
have that
interesting
grandma.
one. But I had an awareness of it.
Mhm.
And I wasn't like, oh, astrology. I was like, oh, this is cool. I would love to learn more. So when I think it was probably in LA and just through the podcast and having different astrological conversations, I really was shocked by how much more acceptance and love I had for myself through
Yeah.
learning about my chart. And obviously it depends on like who's reading you. And I think there can be, different styles and flavors. But overall, I just felt like, oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. That's who I am. And I no longer have to contort and pretzel myself to be someone else. It would be totally against
Yeah.
who I'm designed to be. But I think for me, sometimes I was in that like shadow of
Yeah.
a particular part of my chart. Can you talk about that a little bit, where people feel like, yeah, but this part of me, like, I don't really love. So what is
Yeah.
that related to their chart?
I appreciate you saying that you found a greater love for yourself like through the process of learning, but I think the only way through that uncomfortable feeling is through it. And so it's like embracing when we do shadow work, it's embracing that. Like
Yeah.
part of you that's so great is the adaptable part of you, which is the flip side of what you said, pretzeling and contorting, and I'll be whoever you want me to be. But in a way, that is a part of your patterning that's important because you're adaptable and you can be a chameleon. And there
Yes.
are really wonderful things about that trait. So it's really embracing there's like a light and dark side of all signs. And we'll say like, high vibrational, low vibrational. And I think it's a really cool shadow work activity to maybe look at that part of yourself that you aren't in love with. Maybe it's your moon sign or something like that. Or let's use Gemini, because I'm a Gemini sun and you're a Gemini moon. And Gemini is one of those signs where people are like, oh, you're
I
a Gemini.
know.
Oh, I don't know about that. And so I used to be like, yeah, but I'm also a Capricorn rising and a Scorpio moon. Like I'd be like, no, you guys. Like I'm like normal though. And actually was working on this in therapy the other day. The chameleon was a shadow for me. I was so used to being something to everyone. I can get anyone to like me. And when someone said, hey, I like you, but I don't want to be around you right now, I was like, what? I just need to get on the phone with you and I'll convince you.
Yeah.
You'll never get away from me.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that opportunity. And I was like, why is this so hard for me to sit with that? And everyone has autonomy. Everyone has their own way of wanting to do things. But the thing that I love so much about myself, which is that quality, is also in shadow. And it was the chameleon shadow, which is you cannot be something to everyone and be happy.
Yeah. That's really interesting. The same thing can be, it's not even that you're like flipping it. It's literally looking at the chameleon and noticing the programming around that's bad. Like you should be your own person, or you should be, more vocal about what you want and desire and not need to just like adapt to everything and be liked by everyone. And for you to say like, no, the chameleon is actually incredibly adaptable. It's really useful. It's really helpful. Nothing's changing.
No.
Except how, like what you infuse into that and how you're seeing it.
Right.
So sorry, that was just me processing like, okay, like it can happen in an instant. It doesn't need to be this total deconstruction of the thing. It's like, let's all listening, think of that part of ourselves that we're like, that's the part I'm healing, or that's the part I'm working on in therapy. How right now in this moment can we be like, that part actually is really useful. That part rocks. Not in every situation, but like it's there for a reason. And maybe I can be really like doubling down on how it's incredibly useful.
Yeah. And seeing that in your life where, okay, how why do I feel the need to chameleon in certain situations? Is that what kept me safe? Is that what kept me usually safe?
Yeah.
Is that what kept me feeling good about myself? And so therefore it was necessary. Our couples therapist says this to us. Well, she said it once, but I feel like it loops in my head. The strength of someone's defense mechanism correlates to the depth of their pain. And our defense mechanisms are part of that patterning we have, like in our charts, and that takes context to activate. If you grew up in a really wonderful family, you might not have the wounding that someone has who has the same moon sign as you, but grew up really in a tumultuous way. Your moon sign does not dictate you being in that defense mechanism.
Right.
But it shows you what can get activated and what can get deactivated at the same time. If I know my emotions, Scorpio moon, are really intense, then I know I probably need space to process them. And running into the thing was a defense mechanism to get all the information to keep myself safe.
Sure.
I needed that at certain points. I don't need that now in my partnership. He's not going anywhere. There's no point to doing that. But we run these loops, and it's awareness at the end of the day.
Yeah.
To stop them.
So astrology and manifestation, can we talk a little bit more about how we can leverage our particular chart or transits that are happening?
Yeah.
So we can manifest.
Well, we know about the transits because they get blasted into our news feeds. Not so frequently. But if we think about our patterning, that's a really important thing to understand for manifestation, because we don't get what we attract. We get what we believe. So even if we get what we are asking for, we might not be able to hold it. And
has that happened to you?
Oh, yeah. It's
What's
the
an
big leap thing. It's the upper limit
the
problem.
upper limit problem. What's an example?
My relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Just given the way that I grew up and people did leave, the people who were not supposed to.
Yeah.
It's a really deep pattern for me that I almost, my pattern was, if I exacerbate it and I push and push and push, it's either like a test and they'll stay, or it's like they'll leave and they'll get out of my way, and like that's better that I know that now.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
So
it's like creating that adversity.
Yes.
As a test for the other person, and also as a way to distance or like keep them at a distance because you're not fully in trust.
Yep.
And fully in receiving of what's there. Okay.
So that's why law of correspondence can be really helpful with our charts, because we can then look at what's happening internally and what do I inherently believe. And that might be through context and through reflection, with that as a map almost. And certain transits can definitely exacerbate that. So like a Saturn return, which I know, is what in large part started this podcast. It's a deconditioning process. So that's a literal astrological pattern that gets exacerbated in the transit for you to re-pattern how you want to recondition, deprogram whatever needs to happen. A lot of that authority, who's giving you permission to XYZ. And Saturn is a super useful planet that, again, gets like our human charge, which is Saturn's my chart ruler. So it's like adversity is something that I have learned is a part of those things you really want.
Yeah.
And it's actually not true. That's just my belief.
Tell me more.
When things come to me easily, I tend to think there's got to be some catch. And I'll almost like create the catch.
Yeah.
Because it's a little easier for me to accept it if there's a catch, because I'm used to that. They'll love you, but there's a catch.
Sure.
You got this job, but there's a catch, you know? And that's actually not true. It's just my belief that had to like change.
Okay.
People who are Capricorn risings, by the way, like your life will get easier as you live
That's
more
my husband.
experience.
He loves, yes, he loves creating adversity for him to overcome.
Yep.
Loves it. He says it.
It
like
makes you really successful.
Yes.
It can make you really successful. And then it could get stuck. You could get stuck.
Totally. Sometimes he'll share stories with me about work, and you know, most of the time it's like true and accurate in terms of like how I'm like receiving it energetically, and then I'm like, what is that? I was like, that feels like an old pattern of his that we've talked about and he's very aware of, but it just pops back up where he's, well, I don't know, this person, like I feel like, you know, maybe they don't like me, and I'm like, is this true? Is this, you know, the Byron Katie moment of like, is this true? Is this absolutely true?
Yep.
But I think creating that adversity helps him to be like, I'm going to overcome this. And I totally get it. And I love that about him, you know, kind of that like just drive and intensity. And, you know, I think that's what's beautiful about partnerships sometimes, because you can kind of see and feel just the lingering patterns that could be holding each other back.
Totally.
But yeah, Cap rising. Okay.
Yeah, it's a doozy because in many ways it makes you resilient. These are hard-earned defense mechanisms. So they can earn their right to stay because they're like, this helps me.
Sure.
Your soul is like, well, it kind of helps me to get ahead or figure out what I want by running really hard in that direction and then figuring it out afterwards.
Right.
So there's that patterning. And then on a really lovely note, we can use something like our Venus sign to help us get connected with like our manifestation method that might work best for us.
Okay.
Because Venus represents what we love and what we appreciate in our chart and what we're attracted to. So law of attraction, right?
Love it. Okay.
So we all have different Venus signs.
What is yours?
I'm a Gemini Venus.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo.
I think you're a Virgo Venus.
Yeah.
So I would actually break it down into earth, water, air, and fire.
Great.
Because they all have nuances within them, but I've by and large seen the patterns are pretty
cool,
helpful. So Virgo Venus is an earth sign, and that is practical steps. Writing it down, love a list. The way I manifested my partner
using Canva.
Using Canva. Yes, like that. Having I actually really like writing it physically too, because it's an earth activity.
I remember writing my list for my person, and it was actually just written in like almost a narrative form.
Oh, I love that.
And it was less about the some physical stuff, but like more about the feeling and whatever. And
yeah,
I mean, I still have it in my bedside table today because it's just, I like read it to Sean a couple months ago and I was like, isn't this nuts?
Like word for word.
It's him. Besides, what did I say? I said something like, I was like, he likes to skateboard on Sundays.
Where did that come from?
I have no idea.
Wow. Divine channel. Maybe it's a future. Maybe it's future.
Maybe.
With your baby.
Maybe.
How sweet. Maybe it's that.
Oh, maybe that's it.
That made me tear up a little.
Okay, she's picking up on an intuitive hit that could be.
That's also dangerous. So make sure that they're wearing their helmets. Breaking so many bones.
But so funny.
Okay, baby's not even formed yet. Not even totally formed yet. So yeah, like a physical thing. I also feel that, yeah, like just a practical, like thinking about, and also thinking about like you experience things in your body a lot. So that's another way that you can also tap into the manifestation too. Like, am I on that frequency? Like feeling into your body a little bit.
Okay.
This is true for anybody, but
Sure.
since you're so tapped into your body, like really connecting it back to that intuitive way that you receive information is
Okay.
important for manifestation because it's spiritual, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yes, he is a fully formed person already, but like you did essentially order him
Yeah.
with the universe, which
Yeah.
is kind of nuts.
Absolutely.
Air signs, that's what I am. So, I should back up. So earth signs are Virgo, Capricorn, and oh my God, Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Air signs are Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that verbally speaking out loud, like what it is that you want, even sometimes in conversation, I get a sense of like what I actually do want by talking it out. That's
owning
always
it.
worked for me.
And like kind of that energy of like,
Kind of like, I know I'll always do this thing.
mm-hmm.
I just kind of know that. And sometimes it just doesn't come out until I'm
sure.
recounting it or something.
Got it.
Or someone's telling me something and I'm like, ooh, I would never want that to happen to me.
So it becomes very much clear
Yes.
in the talking out.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Yep.
that's like a communication
Sure.
tool, essentially. Fire signs. So fire signs are Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. And they're very much doers. So physical activity. There's even a method that people use during sex, apparently.
Really?
That I feel people need to also maybe be in the physical space of where they want to be. And they're like,
Okay.
oh, this is it. Like, this is what I want.
Okay.
Something that allows them to have a physical, like, action involved.
And like connection to it. Okay.
Yeah, connection
Okay.
to action. I think sometimes people, like, I've done this before. I've certainly tried them all out, you know, like running while thinking about what you want or something like that.
Right.
Or listening to.
Okay.
And water signs. Water signs are very intuitive, as we know. So that's Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. I've seen a lot of just water sign Venuses do vision boards. I think it gets them connected into what they want and that feeling, but the feeling and the emotion behind it is really, really powerful for them. That's like a vehicle. So if they're like, I feel the feeling of giving birth, you know, I feel the feeling of what it's going to be like when I find my partner, like that's the most important thing
Yes. Okay.
for them. Shay Mitchell's like a master manifester and she's always used a vision board.
Wow.
But then does a lot of the act as if, like, I just, you know, had the emotion, I was acting, and then it just became my reality, which I think is really cool and interesting. I've parsed through a lot of like celebrity interviews where they talk about how they've gotten to where they've gotten.
Sure.
And it does like very much maps
Oh, that's interesting.
to their Venus sign. It's pretty nuts.
And with the feeling of the emotions for the water signs, is it, I guess, just getting into the nuance of like, if it's a heightened emotion, like if it's really intense, like do you kind of wait until that passes? Like what is that?
Oh yeah, like the emotional waves. I think if it's manifestation and it's not here yet,
Yeah.
it probably shouldn't be super intense yet.
Yeah. Okay.
But water signs do feel very intensely. And I think as long as you feel like it's a very good thing and you can ride that wave and you feel good about that thing and you're pretty sure, you're 99% sure it's something you really want. And look, we can only do as much as we have information with at this time.
Yeah.
Once we get that thing, then the fun begins because then it's how do you hold that? How do you experience that in your life? How do you do the work that it is required to have that thing? If it's a bike, it's probably not a lot of work, but if it's a partnership, it's lifelong. If that's what the partnership entails. So I think if you're at the beginning of it or you're just anticipating it, it's probably not as intense as when you get it.
Okay. That is, I've never heard this before. The Venus signs being a way in which you know more clearly how you manifest. I think that is so helpful. Clip it.
Clip it. What does Oprah say? Tweetable moment.
Tweetable moment. Mine's clip it.
Clip it. Yeah, and look, like it's all an experimentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing at the end of the day.
I think that, your ability to have fun in this process of manifestation is directly proportional to
God, yes.
like not necessarily getting the thing that you're wanting to manifest, but I've noticed that I will receive, in whatever form it is, the feeling that I'm really desiring. You know, whether it's fulfillment or connection or love or whatever it is, it might come in a different form. But so long as I'm like really, enjoying the process. And by enjoy, I don't mean it's like always easy. Like there are moments where things are like, what the fuck? But there's like a knowing, it's probably that higher self feeling of like, oh, this is all a part of it. So we stay.
Yeah.
We hold our pose through this. This is not meaning you're on the wrong path, you know?
Totally. And that's flow.
Yeah, that's flow.
Like when people are really frustrated when they're not getting their manifestation and it's not coming at the timeline that they want and all the human things we do, I just tell them to like go do something that would make you feel better.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay. You hyperfixating on the problem is clearly not making anything better. And it actually doesn't help us solve anything when we hyperfixate anyway.
Yeah.
So why would we think that helps our manifestations come to us faster? Usually it makes us very myopic. We think it has to come through this door, but
And then we're missing.
it actually comes through the back door.
Yes.
It drops in or there's a window open. So you can't, it's also like getting out of your own way. Like we are so small and insignificant and yet so powerful. We're connected to source. Like, how do you think you know better than your divine, like universal oneness?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, stop.
I know.
Go for a walk.
Yeah, go for a walk.
Dude, like go do something. Honestly, having an animal in your house is really, really helpful.
Wow.
Because it's like this happened to me. I had like something happen with a friend that was like the chameleon realization. You can't be everything to everyone. I was firing off a text back and my dog came in being like, hey, aren't we going for our walk? And I was like, sweetie, thank you so much for interrupting me. It like knocked me out because she was like being cute and like yawning and she was like, I'm ready now. And I was like, I have an obligation to walk her. And also she's leading me into something that's going to make me feel a hell of a lot clearer and better.
Animals just know. It's so sweet.
Right?
It's so sweet.
It's really the coolest. And they're connected. There's no disconnection for them. Humanness has a ton of disconnection in it. Like being human is to literally forget that we came from source. Like, of course, it's literally a great disconnection and then a reconnection that we experience.
Yeah.
Animals don't have that.
I know.
There's no ego.
So sweet.
It's so great.
I know.
Want to hear something really funny?
Yes.
That's so cool. I think it's in the book. I think it's in the Law of One. They talk about animals differentiating and becoming souls eventually or becoming human eventually. And the closer that they are to doing that is when they're pets because they're differentiated from the pack and they have their own name and they have their own personality that we validate and lean into as the caregivers to them. And then they could become a human maybe after that.
Oh, that's wild.
Isn't that so cute?
I wonder if they want to become human.
Dude, Shiva is absolutely going to be a human.
Yeah.
The way she soaks up attention from other people, she's a Leo.
Love her.
So like obviously.
Yeah.
But like she has such a fully formed personality. Wow. It's like I know what she's saying, but she's not saying it.
It's
I said to Leshik, like, isn't it funny she can't talk? And he was like, not really. She's a dog.
Yeah.
And I was like,
You're like, but we just had a full
don't be such a
conversation.
Please.
I want to talk about, because you mentioned before, but we haven't talked about this on the podcast, the spiritual laws. So I know there's many, but you mentioned the law of attraction, the law of correspondence, and explained those. Are there any others that can really support us in manifestation or anything else?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there are 12 main ones, so I invite you to look them up and really experience them for yourself. You guys have spoken about the law of one a lot.
Yep.
And the law of polarity also has something to do with well, it's a spiritual law, but I think the law of polarity comes up a lot in the law of one material. So you've definitely already heard about those. Polarity happens every time we have a full moon.
Say more.
The axis of opposites are represented.
Okay.
So we see those with the nodes as well, where we have the north node, the south node, they're always opposite one another.
Okay.
It's the same thing when we have a full moon. So the sun is exactly opposite the moon, and those are opposite signs. So it's that axis of polarity that we experience. And it's a different axis every time, depending on the moon.
Okay.
So, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about the nodes. So that will circle back to that. Another law that's really important for manifestation is the law of inspired action, which you've probably heard about, which is like taking that step towards what it is that you want or creating your desired reality. In manifestation, I think most of us know you can't just like sit on your ass and it comes to you. It's like when people say like, I want to find a partner, but I don't want to go out and date. I don't want to be on dating apps. We hear that a lot. And
You'd
it's
be
like,
surprised though. I feel like people really believe sometimes that it's like, I just want to think about it. And then,
anymore.
yeah.
I'm sure there are examples of that.
Yeah. Very rarely though.
Very rare. And you would have to really put yourself in the position of the inspired action would be coming from somewhere. It would be coming from the way that you're moving through your neighborhood. It would be coming from
Sure.
how you're saying hi to people, so that somebody would then
Notice
say,
you. Yeah.
yeah, like, oh, I noticed you lived here. That's kind of weird actually now thinking about the knocking on your door thing, especially in New York. I mean, most people are trained.
Scratch that example.
We love our neighbors, but I think certain people are like,
Yeah. If
pretty
anyone knocked on my
adverse
door, I'd be like, yeah,
Right?
can you just leave it there?
right. So it's like that funny, ironic example of like, I just want somebody to knock on my door, but like, do you actually? And that's an interesting way to think about
That is
how you would
interesting.
actually receive the manifestation. There's parables about that too, of like, you know, I'm not a Bible enthusiast, as you can probably guess, but there's parables of like, you know, how you treat someone that are really useful, like the leper, right? And then like, oh, I'm butchering this, but like that was Jesus or something.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were like, oh shit, if I knew it was Jesus, I would have been way nicer to you.
Yeah.
It's like that's the whole
thing.
It's the whole thing, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So law of inspired action is like taking one step. It could be writing down your goals or setting a meeting or, you know, ordering a book, reading the book that you know is going to like get you kind of closer to understanding or development. That one's really important for manifestation too. Like, what's one step I could take today?
I feel like that also, just with the human, it almost allows me to feel a bit more momentum. So it's like energetically, I know that things are happening that I don't have to necessarily control or worry about, but just trust in. But then there's that law of inspired action that affects the human, which is like, oh, actually, that felt really good to finally call about, you know, the appointment I've been putting off, which could kickstart this, you know, whatever it is. So yeah, I've noticed that about myself, where if I am putting things off and I'm avoiding, then I am absolutely delaying that thing that's coming in.
And we do that.
Yeah.
When, especially, I think sometimes as things get closer,
Oh, yeah.
you're like, ooh, it's happening so fast.
Uh-huh.
Could I slow this down?
Sure.
And that would slow something down if you were like to not take that action. But the law of perpetual motion is kind of what you're talking about. It's like that extension of that, which everything is in cycle. Everything's already in motion. It's whether or not you want to acknowledge it, it's happening. You know, things are happening behind the scenes. The tides are always coming in and out, whether or not you're particularly aware of them. It doesn't matter.
So law of perpetual motion is
that's like that
law.
momentum, that like rhythm of everything. You know what I mean? Like that's like that, I would say the next step of law of inspired action, which is like, oh, that could perpetuate motion.
Got it. And would that be connected to like you said it's connected to cycles, but like a life and death cycle?
Totally.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That's
and
the
how does that
biggest
play into
cycle.
manifestation? Do you feel like?
Like life and death?
Yeah, literal life and death, and then also metaphorical, because I feel like we're so afraid of death in general.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm wondering if that is
blocking us in some ways? I'm not sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
I said this the other day in a bachelorette party, which probably wasn't the best time, but somebody was really freaking about like not having their partner. And I was like, look, like you could die at any moment. Like, don't you want to be having fun? And I mean, the air in air in the room just completely sucked out. And I was like,
Everyone's white cowboy hat just dropped to the floor. They're like, "Ugh."
but doesn't that make you guys feel good? They were like, I probably won't get called again for another bachelorette
They're like, are
party,
you saying this boat is going to sink?
They're like, what do you mean? Mike's my forever. But like, you know, I think that it helps you take things less seriously, number one. I think it's also kind of interesting if you're co-creating your reality and you think it's all birth, like you can't have birth without death. Like it is the cycle of humanness.
Yes.
So in that same vein, creating space or having things fall away for you to get that thing or have that thing in your life, and that could be a relationship or something. Some relationships might need to cycle out. And instead of holding on, like people do hold on at the end so that they don't pass, you know, just being in acceptance of that and knowing that that's a perfectly normal and encouraged cycle of life. We have it every time we have seasons. We have it every fall and winter. Like it's happening, babe, without you. Like, whether or not you're cool with it, it's happening. That's important.
Yeah. And I like the connection because it's like we're so focused on the birth of something when we're manifesting. And it's just not taking into account how that cycle mechanism actually works. So if you're only focused on the birth, it's like you're actually blocking what's really meant to come through because you're unable to let go of whatever it is or let something die or I think about that a lot. Like with this actual birth, I was talking, by the way, we have the same therapist. We're not going to give her name. She's the best.
She would hate that.
That's what I love about her.
She would just not answer your email. To be honest.
She'd be like,
my boundaries.
She's like, I'm not available for that. I love her. But I was talking to her about this, just the death of identities, you know, and just kind of as I'm stepping into a new identity of mother, of, you know, so I think there was a part of me that I didn't realize was so desperately holding on to a couple other identities that were, so purposeful and also were ready to be laid down. Yeah. Just so dramatic. But it's true. I was like really holding on. I'm like, but wait, like I got to get this done before the baby comes because I am this. Yeah. And I was fearing like, oh my gosh, like, do I kind of have to let her go? Yeah. You know, or just like lay her down for a second, you know, and not feel like she needs to be activated all the time. Right. Or given attention all the time. So yeah, it's been just such an interesting process, but so nice because it's gotten me a bit more accustomed to that feeling of like, okay, I'm going to let go. And it actually feels amazing. Yeah. We resist. And we're like, we don't want to die. Like, da, 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 da. The ego's like, no. And then you let go and release control and you feel that new person start to come in and you're like, oh, I love you. Let's do this because it feels really good.
And we as souls, we have hundreds of experiences just like that, which is actual death and rebirth. Yes. So while it does feel really a human thing, it's a soul thing. And you're practiced at this. So am I. Yeah. So is everyone who's listening to this. Thank God.
We just have to remember.
It's literally part of me. It's impossible to totally remember everything consciously. That would be extremely overwhelming.
That'd be crazy.
I'm sure. I know that there are people who really can access that. they're some of my friends. They can access them at any time, but it is overwhelming and it requires some boundaries. So
Yes.
as a human, naturally, you just come in with a bunch of boundaries, which are just like, you forgot. Brain boundaries, basically.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you mentioned this because it's basically like you're going out on maternity leave. My friend Stephanie, who passed away in, when was that? Right around her birthday in February. I was very honored to hear about her experience dying. She was very open and honest with me. And it was amazing, to be honest, because it was so transcendent, so otherworldly. She was so open. And she said, it honestly feels exactly like it was when I went out on maternity leave. I'm trying to get everything together for me to leave. And it was like this incredible thing to think about, like birth and death in that moment. And she connected them in such a wonderful example. And I was like, it is like that, except for like, you're not coming back in this body.
Wow. Ugh.
It was crazy. And
Wow.
she was so...
And were you connecting after she had passed, or was this leading
and
up
that's
to?
my like great benefit, and that's what I really wish for everybody to experience mediumship, which you can talk to your loved ones, which is so powerful. But no, we were connecting before she passed. I also asked her like what her sign would be, and she told me. She thought about it and she told me. So it was really really meaningful to then see her signs everywhere. But she really showed in this wonderful way how graceful it can be to let go. I've never seen anybody do something so powerful.
Wow. And to have that as like a gift that she gave you. I'm sure she gave you many, but like to have that. Yeah. Wow.
And I think in a way she told me because she knew I would tell others.
Yeah.
And that it would get out there. Here's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
And I also know that she did that in many ways because it was cyclical and really important for me, because I didn't get a lot of closure with my stepmom, who passed really similarly to her. And when I had conversations with her, the last conversation I had with her was in the same room that the last conversation I had with my stepmom was.
Oh, wow.
It was wild. Like, so psychic, so clear, and really, I mean, so emotional, obviously.
Yeah.
But just like, whoa. Like, Chris, my stepmom, and Steph are literally communicating almost like as one right now, as like this archetype of mother that is leaving.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
Life is so bonkers and amazing.
It's crazy. And for you, I think, this just is an example too of being so present to these moments, like I can imagine that moment being completely overwhelming and out of body for some, or maybe for you at a different time or place or season in your life. But for you to be able to receive that message and feel the peace and like the grace that with which she spoke about death, and like actually apply that now and just really feel the power of that is, it's definitely something that I think we as humans and all of us listening can embody more of, where it's less of a life is happening to me, why is this happening, questioning, and just feeling like the dumpster fire of life just engulfing you. And it's like, wait, this is like, as sad as this is like one of the greatest gifts I probably ever received in my life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you said too. Life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. Like, there was no truer embodiment of that than Stephanie, who could have taken that diagnosis that she got and felt poor me and really down and gone into a full depression, and everyone would have excused her. Everyone would have said, you know what? You're freaking dying. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. That's what we did with my stepmom. She wasn't in a depression necessarily. She was just like doing whatever the hell she wanted. She lived like that regardless. So she just had more of a permission to do that. So
Sure.
that was really lovely. But Steph absolutely just took it on in stride and was like, okay, I'm going to fight as much as I can. I'm going to not fight when that feels better to my body.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this with grace. She was very purposeful in life. So she took it as like another, the last challenge, really.
Wow.
It was truly so beautiful.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Well,
Steph.
Thanks, Steph.
Yeah,
She's a bunny,
truly.
by the way.
Oh, she's a bunny?
I asked her and
Oh,
I
I
said it was
love.
really helpful for us to know that my stepmom was going to be a bee. So just think about it. You know, you don't have to tell me,
How
but
fun.
yeah. And she was like, I've always like, everyone's always called me an Energizer bunny. I just feel I'm a bunny, and she was like, I'm going to die the year of the rabbit. It was just great. Like
Wow.
every single thing that happened, I was like, holy shit.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I feel the impact of that story. So thank you. Yeah. I could literally talk to you for another hour. Okay. I want to many hours. I
get the
kind of have
chance
to
to
pick
do
and
that all the
choose.
time,
I know. Literally, we have little FaceTime dates where we're like,
Okay, we need to catch up, see what's happening. A supplement that I feel like people know about, but is so important, and we found one we loved, Pendulum. Pendulum has made a supplement called Metabolic Daily that is disrupting the probiotics market with clinically studied strains that aren't available anywhere else. They were founded by PhD scientists and are backed by the Mayo Clinic and Halle Berry, by the way, who recently became their chief communications officer. They're the only company with Akkermansia, a next generation strain that's called the Keystone strain for gut health. You can get it as a single strain or in Metabolic Daily. This is a powerful multi-strain probiotic that improves your metabolism, reduces sugar cravings, breaks down carbs more efficiently, and sustains your energy levels. I've been taking Metabolic Daily for a few months now since I went back on it after pregnancy. I was taking it before pregnancy, and I'm so thankful. I feel really, really good, so balanced. I feel like I have more energy. It's incredible. I'm excited for you because you guys can get 20% off your first month of any Pendulum product membership with code ALMOST30. Go to pendulumlife.com and use the code ALMOST30 at checkout. You're going to feel incredible. This is a truly innovative strain of probiotic. Your gut will thank you. The Metabolic Daily Supplement by Pendulum. Go to pendulumlife.com. Use the code ALMOST30 at checkout for 20% off. Trust us, you'll enjoy it.
I want to talk about the nodes.
Yeah.
And then I would love so this episode is coming out in third week of November. And I would love to just kind of, plant some seeds for end of year, beginning of 2024
Yeah.
For the audience. So starting with nodes.
Yeah. So the lunar nodes moved into Aries and Libra in July of 2023. And they'll be there for another year and a half.
Okay.
Which is a really good way to set the tone for, the yearly cycle, yes, but it's like that year and a half kind of cycle. But we'll have it all 2024.
Okay.
So what I like with transits is like we get like a trailer, then we get the movie, and then we get like the end credits. So most of next year will be the movie. So we already have the trailer of what it felt like in 2023. And Aries as a North node, is representative of independence, operating in your own authentic frequency, going with your gut, being very self-reliant in a really powerful way. And the South node, the polarity, is Libra, which is the sign of relationship and other, and harmony and balance. And that's what we're letting go of during this time. So the way that we can think about that, I think, is perfect to talk about relationships. operating in your own authentic frequency, like law of vibration, law of attraction, means that certain people will be attracted to that and certain people will not be attracted to that. And for a lot of people, operating in your own authentic frequency is really foreign. It's often deconditioned from us, especially as women in hetero relationships.
Sure.
Let's say, operate what's best how is best for the family, how is best for your partner. Make sure everyone else is taken care of, safe, and then if there's time left over, you circle back to you, and that's all backwards.
Okay.
And so this is a time where many more people will be hearing their intuition, be listening to hopefully that gut instinct, and be in authentic frequency. And that means that will be very different for their relationships if they have been operating in that completely old paradigm.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what we'll be seeing in our society, but we'll also be experiencing that on a personal level.
How do you see that happening societally, like as a little prediction?
Well, those who have their Pluto in Libra, so that's Gen X. I have a lot of clients in Gen X, and they're going to be going through it the most. They are probably deeply in that pattern, ingrained in that pattern of the other, of the family, of the harmony, of the balance. And that's a sacrifice for your own happiness.
Got it.
We'll see a lot of flipping of that. I'm already seeing it with my clients. For anyone who just has not focused on themselves and has been programmed or conditioned by society, by other people that's selfish, like this is the time to be a little bit selfish. And you'll see like the people who are meant to be with you are still with you, and the people who can't handle that or really relied on you operating in their energy or doing everything for them or making sure that they feel harmonious, they're gonna have to focus on themselves.
Yeah.
And you can absolutely come together in that moment, but like you and you is the most important relationship
Yes.
above all else. So you can't be outside of that and make other people happy or harmonious. Eventually it is discord.
Right.
And it has to be redirected. So that recalibration process will be uncomfortable for people.
Yeah. Do you feel like it'll affect the systems, like government, education, healthcare, anything like that? Sorry, I'm getting
It can.
dramatic, but I'm
Definitely.
like,
Like we saw it with, and right now we're seeing the trailer, right? So like we'll observe and see like how is this stepping in. Yeah, it could absolutely be like reform, justice reform. You know, Libra also rules the legal system. So we could see that turn in the favor of more individual rights or, you know, more like outdated laws.
okay.
Which there are, you know, our
Just a-
Constitution is
just a
like
few.
250 years old. Like we don't think what startup could ever operate at 250 years?
Literally.
No, it's messy. Like
Yeah.
we need some anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw with like the cycle which just ended, which will have just ended, which is the Taurus Scorpio axis with that last eclipse season. This last eclipse season, which ended like October 28th. So that was all really interesting because South Node was in Scorpio and the North Node was in Taurus. And we were really focused on like our values as a society and money. So we were really focused on like banks fell. We were people are trying to buy houses, so mortgages have been really wild. So we see like how what we value as a society was really highlighted.
Got it.
So now what we're highlighting as a society is the individual. So we already live in a very individualistic society. So it could, you know, swing even, I don't even know how it could swing further in an individualistic culture in the US, but
I know. I was thinking about that where, yeah, it feels like there's also like an individualism and an acceptance of the individual. I think that needs to, you know what I mean? Where it's
Yes.
like,
Good point.
it's like, sure, we're so individual. We kind of see that like if we look out, social media, TV, whatever, but it's like, are we really accepting of that? And does everything support that individual? And it's not like individual as ego. It almost, like, I feel like we're really being called to, like we were saying at the beginning of this conversation, like, trust ourselves, like, do
Yeah.
what feels good for us. And at the same time, not feel threatened when someone doesn't agree with us or
Right.
does it a different way, but we really hold our own pose and we respect the pose of others.
Yes. What a wonderful way to put that. And if the laws do not support individual expression, then they are outdated.
Yeah.
We have a lot of laws to protect the individual, and yet they do not protect every individual.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, and that is regardless of whether you agree with their pose. So I think on a broader scale, you know, when we look collectively, we often think about government because it's meant to support us. It's meant to. Being the operative word.
Yep.
And so also like giving people permission, like I think with these nodes, like what we talked about today too, like the permission to operate as your individual self and whatever that means. And putting a label on that can often be detrimental as well. Rick Rubin also said that like trying to label yourself as an artist can often mean that you're more limited than expanded. And so remember that too. Like if you're trying to be like, well, I'm like this or I'm like that or who am I really? Like try to move away from the very human need to label that.
Yes.
Because as hard as that might be, it might be actually more restrictive.
Yeah. And I feel like we label because we want to be accepted as, you know what I mean? It's like others' acceptance. Because if I think about like my need for a label, I'm like, eh. But then I'm like, I should label myself so people can relate to me, identify me, you know, like all those things. Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's so hard.
Okay, so that's the nodes. And then if we look forward to 2024, you said this is going to be the movie. Anything at like the top of the year that we can leverage astrologically to manifest? I feel like that's like the time of year where we're like really like, okay, fresh start, reset.
Yeah.
You know.
What's cool is that at the end of last year, if you remember, or 2023, like end of 2022 into 2023, we had like retrogrades going into the new year. So it was kind of like this forced slowdown. What's cool about the beginning of this year is we have a bunch of planets going direct.
Cool.
So it's like Jupiter, Mercury, and Mars changes signs. Mars is the initiator, the catalyst. So we have a ton of energy going into 2024, sorry. That is really like that law of perpetual motion or the law of inspired action.
Yes.
So, and that actually correlates to the nodes. I wasn't thinking of it like that, but let's say that like next year's law is law of inspired action.
Ooh, okay. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, okay, I like
So
that.
would it be? So, because Aries, North
Aries,
Node,
yeah.
and then you know the sign that rules Aries is Mars, moving into
Great.
a new sign at the top of the year. We have like the direct motion from Jupiter and Mercury, like I said, and I just feel like there's a lot of momentum that goes into to next year, which is really powerful. You know, you can always use the new and full moons to do your opening and releasing, but this year will feel like you'll want to do it. You'll want to do it at the top of the year because it will feel much more in line. Whereas I feel like last year, a lot of people were like, I don't really feel it. I feel slow. I feel like I don't want to set my intentions. So most people waited for.
That's so true. Yeah, I remember that feeling. Okay.
Most people waited for like that first new moon of Aquarius season, which was like end of January. And I would also say that no astrologer knows more than what you feel in your gut. So if it doesn't feel right to you, even though there's all this planetary momentum and it feels too rushed, just wait till you feel better and then do it. Do your ritual or just live your life in the best way possible. That's the best manifestation thing you can actually do.
Say more about that just in terms of, I feel like we said this earlier in the convo, but I meant to kind of tap on it a little bit because what does it mean to like live your best life in that sense? Because I think people can be like, well,
Yeah, and I know, and it's so cliche, but really just being in flow, finding
yeah,
as many opportunities as you can to be in flow. And if you're not totally sure what that is for you, now would be the time to really
yeah,
like focus on that. I tend to do that when I do this a lot in work.
yeah.
When I'm in flow with a client, I'll clock it to myself
Mm-hmm.
and be like, okay, bring me more of this.
Yes.
Or I'll kind of reverse engineer it and I'll schedule things around energy that I know I'll feel good astrologically, like at the top of the year. Like maybe setting a really important meeting for yourself early on in the year, or something that you know will make you feel in flow, like a really wonderful conversation with a friend or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And then it's easier. It's easier as a result rather than, sitting down. And you can get your manifestation journal. Of course, you can do that whenever you want, but there's no better manifestation tool than just like operating and
Feeling good.
in your alignment.
Abraham Hicks, big time.
Very big time. I listen to a lot of
Me,
Abraham Hicks.
me too. Me too.
It's so helpful as a reframe.
Yeah, and it's so simple, and some people will be like, "Oh, okay, find the good feeling." Like,
Yeah.
kind of, rather than focusing on what you don't have, just choose a better thought. And it's like, it's so simple, but we have so much. Our resistance just becomes, or our over analyzing of what that means and why we can't do it, and it's really simple. In an instant, you can just choose a better thought. You might not fully believe it. Like your mind might be like still jury's out.
Yeah.
But if you just try it on rather than like wearing the heavy jacket that really isn't made for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And sometimes like what I talked about with my dog, or I was thinking about this today on my walk. Sometimes the outside world will distract you out of the pattern that isn't helpful for you, and it's like happening for you. So you might think, "Oh, like she's distracted. She needs to go for her walk. Like, I need to finish this text." You could flip it like that, but instead looking at it like, no, this is interrupting like a very harmful behavior that has perpetual damage to me. And I was on my walk today and I was like, kind of just, I don't know, like I was in a little bit of an anxious funk. And there was this girl scream, literally, well, she was singing, but it was very loud at the top of her lungs, Unstoppable by Sia. Just truly just belting. And I was like, yes, I needed that reframe. Wow. I needed that reminder. And it set a completely different motion.
Wow.
So let like it be easier. You think it has to we're putting a lot of ownness on the self. Yes. But also you're one with everything. So just know that like if something is distracting, if something is happening outside of you, like that's for you too. Let that be the new pattern.
Yes. Yeah, our tendency to want to control things that are coming in and out and make everything just so that you don't experience pain, you don't experience any dissonance is really not. Yeah, it's not really.
It's really futile.
This has been so fun.
This has been so fun.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, this is a long time coming, and I'm just, I'm so thankful. And yeah, we talked briefly about what you do, but you are just such a gifted intuitive, and people can work with you one-on-one. You have, tell me a little bit about it, just so people can touch base, because I know they will.
Thank you for that baton.
Yeah.
People can work with me one-on-one no matter what. And I also work with executives.
Yeah.
So I've done that pivot and shift into being full-blown intuitive into like back more of my corporate experience, what I was talking about before, where I was an executive coach, an executive recruiter for many years. So now that's more integrated into my practice. So people can work with me if they are leaders or executives as well, to become more intuitive, to trust their intuitive path more, to be better managers, to be better leaders, to be better humans.
Yeah.
just like answering the question, I think for everybody, like, how can I be better? How can this be better? How can we optimize? My overarching goal is to help people self-actualize, like whatever that means for you.
Love that. Thanks guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We love you so much,
so
and we'll
fun.
see you soon.
Thanks, Linz.
Love you.
I love you too. Bye.
Thank you so much, Alex.
So as we mentioned in the beginning, Alex rebranded her website, podcast, and handle to Capricorn Rising Inc. So you can find her at Capricorn Rising Inc. on Instagram and TikTok. You can learn more about Alex's business, her coaching opportunities, and more at CapricornRisingInc.com. And be sure to listen to her podcast, Capricorn Rising Inc., the podcast.
And if you love this episode, we have over 600 more in our library and our archives. So enjoy going back there. Someone the other day was like, I play roulette in your library and I just pick something at random and know that it's going to give me the message that I need. I was like, oh, that's the best game I've ever heard.
That's amazing.
So yeah, check those out if you want to learn more about Almost 30 and what we got going on here, including our Almost 30 membership, which is a place where you can come just as you are to learn and grow, connect in community, have a lot of fun. You can go to almost30.com/membership. And we'd love to shout out our sponsors. These are brands that Krista and I are just obsessed with and vet for you, that really have made a difference in our health and our lifestyles.
We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.